July 4th weekend 2016. I am Arthur Piccolo, co-founder of the Lower Manhattan Historical Society. The Lower Manhattan Historical Society has succeeded in its ambitious plans to enhance the celebration of the July 4th weekend in Lower Manhattan each and every year, in ways others have not. As you will witness in a number of videos, this is the first of them. We certainly are not done. Our plans for July 4th weekend 2017 will be more ambitious still. With this July 4th weekend, we have begun a 10-year countdown to the 250th anniversary of American independence, with the ambition of Lower Manhattan being the focal point it deserves to be for that huge national and global celebration, July 2026, if we all work together. Lower Manhattan Historical Society intends to lead the way. As for this 30-minute video, it is not a commercial or a movie trailer, but a true representation of what took place on July 2nd, 2016, and a permanent, useful record available now and for generations to come. I hope you will watch all of it. It is worth your time.
This year, we're having the theme of the Irish because of the 100th anniversary of the Easter Rebellion and the 100th anniversary of Irish independence. I want to introduce our highest elected official in Manhattan, the Honorable Gail Brewer, the Borough President of New York, Manhattan.
Thank you very much, and the Lower Manhattan Historical Society for keeping our rich history at the forefront last year and this year. And I certainly want to thank the Consul General of Ireland and her amazing staff for being here today. As the Borough President, I feel very strongly about the preservation of history, so it has been a pleasure to partner with Jim Kaplan and the Lower Manhattan Historical Society. But of course, Lower Manhattan was the first step in New York's history for generation of immigrants. That's where they came. And certainly it was a neighborhood where many Irish immigrants came, and they had no choice at that point but to come to the 5 Points.
The Grand Marshal of the parade, Maureen Murphy, who's an Irish scholar par excellence. She's worked very closely with us, and she's worked very closely on the Easter, the 100th anniversary of the Easter Rebellion, as well as the creation of this Irish Hunger Memorial.
An Gorta Moore. 100,000 welcomes to the Irish Hunger Memorial in Battery Park City. You're standing on limestone pavers from County Kilkenny that are 300 million years old. Look at the fossils from the seabed, and that's they're brought here, and there are pavers, and we also have them on the wall, polished limestone, where you see about 2 miles of text, 110 quotations, mostly of the Irish famine, also of world hunger. When you get inside the Hunger Memorial, there's a 2-room cottage from Abbeymass, County Mayo, an appropriate place because it's linked with our honoree this weekend. Adrian Flannelly is an Abbeymass man. We invite you to join us today to our march down to Bowling Green. I'll be carrying the flag that Arthur has there. It flew over the GPO last week in Dublin, the General Post Office. It flew from the top of the General Post Office, and we will raise it in centenary tribute at Bowling Green.
Anna McGillicuddy, who is the Deputy General Counsel of the Irish Consulate here. She's been extremely active in helping us.
We Irish know what an important year it is. I'm looking at the fantastic Richmond Pipes and Drums and the NYPD here. We Irish know what an important year it is. But to have the Lower Manhattan Historical Society recognise that too and bring us together on this most important weekend for American citizens and all those who love America is so special. And of course, the Declaration of Independence, which I know was signed on the 4th of July, so heavily influenced our own freedom fighters and those who wrote the Irish Proclamation of Independence. We are so intertwined, and as we celebrate our independence this weekend, Irish independence, 100 years, and US independence, we also recognize and acknowledge and are so thankful for our interdependence. Today is so special because it recognises the service and the contribution of the Irish in this city over so many generations. And how fantastic that we start here at the Irish Hunger Memorial. What a great New York commemoration. And now I'm going to hand over this flag. And we are so proud of this flag. It flew over the GPO and it symbolises peace between the two traditions on the island of Ireland. A challenge to all of us Irish, even today. Thank you so much, and I look forward to marching with you all and meeting you later.
Then we're going to go across around the promenade, which is a beautiful view. We'll go around Rector Street down Broadway, and then down to Bowling Green.
Nice to get a shot with the statue.
July 4th! Great! Join us!
and I'm with the Lower Manhattan Historical Society. It is my pleasure to be here today to represent this fine event that's occurring here this morning. I'd like to start off with a quote, please, if I may, from Richard Henry Lee, 1732 to 1794, and I quote, that these colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from the allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is, and ought to be, totally dissolved. We're not ready to begin our ceremony, so our first speaker up this morning is going to be Arthur Piccolo from the Lower Manhattan Historical Society, who has also arranged this outstanding event right here at Bowling Green. So if I can have Arthur Piccolo come up to the mic, please.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Bowling Green. There is no more appropriate place for us to be celebrating the Irish than here at Bowling Green. If you believe my version of history, and I think you should, this is the defining place in the entire history of Irish America. What happened right here, 1762, March 17th, 1762, not noticed all that much when it took place, was a powerful moment in history. That is when the first St. Patrick's Day parade began. The first St. Patrick's Day parade anywhere in the world began as a march on March 17, 1762. Irish soldiers who had been conscripted into the British Army decided to show their pride as Irishmen, and along with Irish colonists, men and women who were in the colonies, they very boldly defied the British and decided to march up and down Lower Broadway, starting right here at Bowling Green. So that's not just the start of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. It is a start of a route towards independence in both America and Ireland. This defiance, the first actual defiance of British rule by an organized group that ever took place in America, happened on March 17, 1762, right here, when Irish soldiers and Irish colonists joined together with other colonists and simply marched up and down Lower Broadway. One of the individuals here that day, almost definitely, was an Irish immigrant named Hercules Mulligan, who would have just arrived a few years earlier and was 22 years old and would almost inevitably have been here. What's important about Hercules Mulligan is that 12 years later, on July 9th, 1776, Hercules Mulligan led the Sons of Liberty down Broadway to Bowling Green when word of independence reached New York City from Philadelphia. And they ripped through the fence in the park here and went into the middle of the park. And they tore down the statue of the British king. And that group was led by Hercules Mulligan.
Thank you, Arthur, very much. Our next speaker this morning, and doing some introductions, is going to be the president of the Lower Manhattan Historical Society, Jim Kaplan.
You cannot understand, you must realize the direct relationship between Irish independence and the fight of the Irish here in New York. Right after the Great Hunger, the Irish poured into the United States and poured into this city. And they were poor, they were weak, they were disorganized. But in 1845, a new man named John Hughes was named Archbishop of New York. And John Hughes, in his very first sermon, said to the Irish, who were bitterly discriminated against, "We will stand up and we will fight anti-Irish prejudice, and if we stand together, we will win. And ultimately, we will be second to none in the city of New York." And within 50 years, until by 1990, the Irish basically controlled the politics of New York.
Ambrose Richardson. Ambrose is the president of the Sons of Revolution in New York City and a board member of the Lower Manhattan Historical Society.
But no one has yet commented today on the role that the Irish had in American independence. 40% of the Continental troops were immigrants from Ireland or Scotland. I read a book recently about how the Irish won the American Revolution. It's a slight exaggeration, only a slight exaggeration, but without the Irish contribution from people who knew what it was like to live under English oppression, the War of Independence would not have been won. So, Americans, we thank the Irish just as the Irish thank the Americans. Thank you.
Our next speaker this afternoon is Wesley Oler. He's the son of the Revolution, and he's also a board member of the Lower Manhattan Historical Society. Wesley, would you come up and join me, please?
Thank you all for coming. I'm Wesley Oler. I represent the Sons of the American Revolution in New York City here. We're 30,000 people around the United States and overseas of members who have been able to trace their ancestry to someone who served the revolutionary cause. And we're honored to be a part of the ceremony. This is our color guard down there behind Ambrose, and we want to thank them very much for carrying the flags and participating today. And thank you all for coming out.
Our next speaker is here, Hillary Byrne. Hillary is a member of the Board of Directors of New York City and St. Patrick's Day Parade.
It's a beautiful day, and thanks to Arthur and James and the Lower Manhattan Historical Society for organizing today's events and tomorrow's and Monday's. Needless to say, it is very, very appropriate that we walk today on the very same streets that the designer of the Irish flag, which we currently fly in Ireland to represent the Republic of Ireland, the same streets that the designer marched on in the 1800s, and that was General Francis Moore, who designed the current Irish flag that we fly today. Francis Moore, as was mentioned earlier on, was a commander of the 69th Regiment. The history of Ireland and the 69th Regiment of New York City has been intertwined tremendously. The regiment has led the New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade for 164 years. Today, needless to say, we are here to honor all New Yorkers, and I want to thank the Lower Manhattan Historical Society for reaching out and recognizing Irish independence at the same time that we honor and celebrate the United States independence. And as was said earlier on, many great Irish immigrants fought in the War of Revolution. The parade that was held here in Lower Manhattan on St. Patrick's Day in 1762 was the very first expression of freedom of religion in colonial times, a cornerstone that we hold dear today as part of the United States Constitution. Freedom of expression, freedom of religion, that we all will be celebrating here. Again, congratulations to Dr. Murphy on being the Grand Marshal and Adrian Flannery, and we look forward to having a wonderful weekend here in Lower Manhattan.
Okay, our next speaker coming up represents the Veterans Corps of Artillery. Colonel Meckman is the officer in charge of the color guard standing right behind me, and Colonel Meckman is going to tell you a little bit about the Veterans Corps of Artillery. So I'm going to turn the podium over to Colonel Meckman.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and good afternoon. I'm pleased to be here today on behalf of the Veteran Corps of Artillery of the state of New York. As you've heard, it's the oldest unit in the state of New York and about the 7th oldest in the United States. It was founded in 1790, right up the block here at the City Arms Tavern. What better place to found an organization than at a pub? And it was founded for one reason and one reason alone, because the blessings of liberty that had been won first on July 4th, 1776, and then in this date that you see represented right here, November 25th, 1783, the date that the British sailed off and left the American continent for the last time in the Revolutionary War. Those blessings were under attack. Our forefathers at that time thought that the British were coming back. Maybe a second War of Independence would be necessary. And so was founded that day the Veteran Corps of Artillery of the state of New York. Today, 220 odd years later, we stand with many other units in the country defending liberty, defending our independence. Today, we do two things, actually. We represent and we remember 1776, our own independence. But we also remember here Irish independence. just over 100 years ago in 1916. As a proud grandchild of Italian immigrants to this country, I can tell you as a proud American as well, I'm happy to be here today. I welcome you all. I ask you to stay for the events that are today and tomorrow, and also on Monday. You heard that we will be firing a salute to the nation, 50 rounds by cannon, right down here in Battery Park, just about 11 o'clock. I'd ask you all to join us then. Celebrate this weekend, celebrate independence, celebrate freedom. Thank you very much.
I'd like to bring up the renowned Irish radio host, Adrian Flannelly.
I would like to devote my time to actually congratulating all of you for standing around in what is an absolutely gorgeous day in Manhattan, but also it's great to celebrate not only America's independence, but also because of the Lower Manhattan Historical Society. And I know that Jim Kaplan and the board have spoken and have been congratulated, but I want to tell you something. There's a fellow here, Arthur Piccolo, and for those of you who do not know Arthur, since we have met him both in my own capacity, the Irish consulate, the Irish government, the St. Patrick's Day parade, all of us, from once you get in touch with Arthur, you have committed 24/7. To that end, I do want to say this is a great privilege. It's a great privilege to have Irish independence celebrated in the same square, in the same bowling green, with the Irish connection. Happy birthday, America. Happy birthday to Ireland as well, and to those who came before us on this very spot, who made freedom and liberty possible for all of us. Thank you.
Great. The next speaker I'd like to have come up, we've had here before, and that would be the Deputy Consul General Anna McGillicuddy. Is Anna there? She is. Good morning.
Isn't this wonderful, truly wonderful, gathering in this spot of such resonance in US history, in Irish history. I'm not going to repeat what a lot of the speakers have said, but I do want to say that I'm so honoured to be here, to be with you all, to be with the Irish community, and Mary Deedy from the consulate, and my colleague Tim Maw, Deputy at the Irish Mission to the UN this morning, because it's a truly significant day. I think I said it at the Irish Hunger Memorial, but it bears repeating. We were led down here this morning by a truly extraordinary Grand Marshal and a woman who has dedicated herself to transatlantic relations in Maureen Murphy, to Irish history, to Irish studies, to reclaiming the history of the 300,000 Irish who came here at the end of the 19th century and into the 20th century. We have honoured her in Ireland, and it's so wonderful that she led us here today. And on a very final note, Arthur, James and all your colleagues at the Lower Manhattan Historical Society, I know this weekend is about honouring immigrants, honouring the contribution of those who come to this city, whether it's generations ago or today, and that is an extraordinarily important thing to do. We're so delighted you're going to be honouring our very own hero, Adrian Flannelly, and City Council members tomorrow. But there's never been a more important time to remind us all of how important immigrants are. Thank you for telling the Irish story, which is a New York story.
Along the parade route, or as the parade proceeded into the plaza here, I know that many of you had an opportunity to witness our parade marshal coming into the plaza, and that is Dr. Maureen Murphy. Dr. Maureen Murphy is a professor at the Hofstra University. She's an author and a leader of many projects in the Irish American community. It's my pleasure, I'm in awe, and I'm humbled to be able to introduce to you this afternoon our parade marshal.
As we walked down today and past Trinity Church, we stopped to have a look at Alexander Hamilton's grave. Now, 10 paces from Alexander Hamilton's grave is the grave marking of Hercules Mulligan. He's a County Antrim man born in Coleraine and was here by the time he was 6 years old. He went to King's College, which we call Columbia today. He was considered a well-educated man because he was invited to join the Revolutionary Committee of Correspondence in 1775. Arthur's talked a little bit about him. I want to mention, too, that he was a Liberty boy. Concentrate on Hamilton today because Eugene, and thank you very much, is the recipient of the Hamilton Award tomorrow. When Hamilton came in here from the West Indies through Hercules Mulligan's brother, who was in the import business, he got to know the Mulligans, and he actually lived in Hercules Mulligan's house. And Mulligan tells us in his own narration that Alexander Hamilton, who wanted to go to Princeton, wound up at Columbia and actually lived with the Mulligans, became active when he was with the Mulligans in the American Revolution. With Mulligan's influence, became a son of liberty. Mulligan was chosen to be a member of the Committee of 100 in 1775. I mentioned he was a member of the Revolutionary Committee of Correspondence, and they, by the way, met first in Francis's Tavern. Arthur told you that they came down here and they ripped down the statue of George III. In 1777, Hamilton was appointed Washington's aide-de-camp, and he recommended that Mulligan be Washington's confidential correspondent in New York City. In other words, he'd be a spy for Washington in New York. That on Evacuation Day, when the British left the city, Washington started uptown and marched his people down here, reviewed the troops here at Bowling Green, and then, and this is important because people were a bit suspicious of Mulligan, then Washington accepted Mulligan's invitation, and they went to breakfast with Hamilton and Mulligan down there, right down on Pearl Street. It was 23 Queen Street, now 218 Pearl Street. And Washington formally acknowledged Mulligan's service to the Continental cause, calling him a true friend of liberty. And when we get down to the Mission, we have an exhibition of the services to the Irish girls. Between 1883 and 1908, 310,000 Irish girls came through the port of New York. They looked after 100,000. We're here at the site of Bowling Green, the site of the St. Patrick's Day Parade, the site of the teardown of the equestrian statue of George III, the site of the review of troops in Bowling Green on Evacuation Day, very close to Pearl Street and Hercules Mulligan's home. We're here by the Bowling Green offices, which were the offices of the White Star Line, and we'll be going on to the 7th State Street, which was the site of the Mission of Our Lady of the Rosary for the protection of Irish immigrant girls. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Those were really some great words. You know, I've been a student of history for quite some time, and there were a lot of points that you brought out that I was not aware of. I want to thank you very much for that. Okay, we're going to begin our flag raising ceremony at this time. Wow. applause, please. That was amazing. Mary didn't even know she was going to be doing that. So thank you very much. That was absolutely spectacular. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just again a reminder as we conclude our ceremony here today to join us at the Watson House for the reception. But before you leave, I just want to take a moment to thank all of our participants in the parade, the Irish community, the Veterans Corps of Artillery, and all of you in the crowd for joining us here today on this fantastic summer day at the start of our 4th of July Independence Weekend. Concludes our ceremony. Please join us at the Watson House. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure to represent the Lower Manhattan Historical Society today.